Okay, so how does this then inform our writing and our planning? Let me show you. Now, guys, this is in yellow. Remember, this is my one. I'm just going to show you. You are going to do yours in a minute, okay? So you don't need to write this down. You're going to fill in your own in a minute. Mine, yours. Mine, yours. Remember that, okay? Because I don't want you rushing to try and write this one all down. So if you remember my thesis last week, we all have a moral duty to do everything we can to stand against child labour across the world. So I've done my research, or some minimal research. I know that this is impacting on 168 million children. I've got some emotive vocabulary. I found Tom Hiddleston is a spokesperson for UNICEF. So I've done my research. So now I need to start thinking what's going to go into each section. Now, each section is as a minimum is really going to be about 4 or 5 sentences. So all I'm doing at the planning stage is notes. Okay, this is not my writing in full sentences. So how will I create an appealing impression in that opening? Is there something anecdotal? Is there something that's going to show I genuinely care? So I've said, well, I've got to own the fact that I know I'm lucky. I've never been a victim of child exploitation or child labour, so I need to recognise that privileged position. I live in the UK. I've had my education, but I have learned through that process to care about others. Okay, and it's made me aware that I want everyone to have the same opportunities. Now, if I wanted to, I could put in an anecdote within that, working with a kids club charity that operates out of an area of poverty in Plymouth. I have come close to seeing the impact of poverty on young children. So I could have added to that, but so your character, recognize that you're lucky. Now setting, so it's saying, so what's the history, the topic, the facts? Okay, the truth is that child labour did used to be common in the UK, but it was eliminated, particularly thankfully to some of the work by activists like Charles Dickens. We've eliminated child labour now in the UK. We know that it is wrong, but we recognise it's still happening across the world. The number of children currently working in child labour, so that's that 168 million. Potentially there I might put in a quotation, because Charles Dickens was a real advocate for ending child labour. It was very rife in the Victorian era. You might have watched your Oliver musical. So we know that this used to be common in the UK, but we've managed to eliminate it now. We could argue that there are modern problems that are surfacing in the UK, which is why it's a relevant issue. Okay, why is the topic so important? This is such an important topic because childhood is precious. All children deserve education. Bonded labour and slavery is such an act of injustice, it has to be ended. Remember when we did our research task? Okay, so it deprives children of their education, it takes away their childhood, it impacts on their health. So those sort of ideas we could use in this section to help us think about why it's so important. So what's the big emotional point we want to make? See, now this one, we benefit from the suffering of children. That's our challenge, isn't it? Because the fact that child exploitation and labour continues is because people are benefiting from it. Monetary, yet material capitalist culture, where it's all about the money, benefits, sadly, we could argue, from the suffering of children. Children working in certain kind of factory settings within India, they benefit the economy, they benefit the marketplace because they are making products that are cheap. So it's meant to be shocking. You might be looking at that going, what do you mean we benefit? We benefit at Primark, we benefit at some of the places we choose to shop, where we tend to buy products that are of a low cost. It's because they recoup those costs in their workforces. Just putting it out there. Okay, so that's the big emotional point we might want to make. Okay, now what positives can be achieved? So because we are a rich country, we've got governments that can do more. Okay, more to help. We could talk about raising awareness so that we can put governments in a position to look at the practices of production, how people buy stuff. We could look to work with people like, so what positives? We could look at what UNICEF are doing again and how they're helping. And you want to show that there are individual benefits. And actually, when we make a right choice, an ethical choice, there is an individual benefit. Do you know what it is? When we do the right thing, we feel better about ourselves. One of the individual benefits is that sense of doing something. It's a fallacy, which means it's a lie, okay, that we can't feel good about doing the right thing. You know, it can be about feeling good. It can be about feeling a sense of achievement. It can be about feeling like we've done something. Okay, and then ending, what do you want the audience to do? So we might want them to pressure their MP. We want to make, sorry guys. We might want them to make ethical choices. You know, where are you buying from? Are you buying things that are produced in an ethical way? Are you a part of the problem? So what we haven't got there potentially is our counter argument. Now, the truth is, people will say it's really hard to be ethical. So when we look at the falling action, those ethical choices, right? It's really hard to be ethical when I myself don't earn a huge wage, because that's often a counterpoint to making ethical choices. But you could counter argue that. Yeah, that actually sometimes when we make the cheaper choice, we're having to replace it more often. It doesn't last. Whereas the ability to invest once in an item of clothing or an item for the house that will last because it's been made well, actually it's a long-term gain. So can you see though that each of those stages, my character setting, rising action, climax, falling action and ending, has some notes in. Now, your job, just to take you up to the end of today's session then, is to copy and complete this speech structure and make notes based on your chosen topic. Now, guys, some of you have chosen topics, and the way that we've planned so far, we haven't really thought explicitly about what we want the audience to do. So really, that's the practical thing, that once they've heard this speech, what do you want them to go away and do? Because there should be something. If you just want them to go away and think about it, that's not a powerful ending. So it might be, for example, that today you need to think, well, actually, what do I want my audience to do? I haven't really thought about that. So how do I know what they can do to help plastic pollution? How do I know what they can do to help with child labour? Or what can they do to help with ... So you might need to cycle back in and do a little bit of research, which is why we're going to end now. So the rest of your lesson time today, guys, is to ensure that for your topic, we have a moral duty to reduce plastic pollution. We have a moral duty to eliminate homelessness. We have a moral duty to prevent child labour. So whatever your topic is, you are now going to use your research from yesterday, your notes, to come up with ideas for each section. Okay, now if you want, you can look back at my example again, but this is only notes. This is ideas and notes. Okay, we are not writing full sentences in here. Okay, guys, look forward to seeing your work. Bye.